Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, my weekly live stream podcast where I break down the weekend numbers for you and have a free-form discussion with the chat. So if this is your first Box Office Addict, I welcome you to the show. I hope you enjoy being here. I hope that you like my voice. I hope that you like my candor. I hope that you like my way of presenting things. If not, I'll come to your house and tickle your balls just to win you over. If this is the 48th time you've been here, well, awesome. We're 2 weeks away from episode 50. I'm very excited. 50 weeks in a row. We haven't missed one Sunday. How the hell has this happened, people? I mean, oh my god, this has become its own, epic. This has become an odyssey. This has become a long story that we've been telling together this whole time. And the issue is that it sucks. It's hours and hours and hours of a story that's horrible. I mean, really, this is like the Star Wars prequels or something. Except longer and worse. We'll have to get through this together somehow. And maybe one day I'll overcome my mediocrity. But today will not be that day. So we're here to talk about the box office, in particular of one film that I would say overperformed this weekend. I don't think that would be selling the film short. And that would be The Incredibles 2, which had the largest opening weekend for an animated film ever. And honestly, I think it's like the fourth largest opening weekend ever. Well, let me think. No, it's probably the fifth, because there's Infinity War, then Force Awakens, then Jurassic World. No, then Last Jedi, then Jurassic World, then Black Panther, then the other Avengers. So this is the seventh largest opening weekend of all time. That really does kind of knock it down a few pegs. Oh, it's only the seventh largest opening weekend of all time. I mean, it's not like it's the fifth or fourth or something, so it's not that impressive. Now, Finding Dory, which was the much anticipated sequel to Finding Nemo, opened to what? 135 million, which at the time was the record for opening weekend for an animated film. Now, a lot of people thought The Incredibles would do better than that, just because there was more demand for a sequel than there ever was for Finding Nemo, even though Finding Dory went on to make $486 million domestically and $1 billion worldwide. But not only did The Incredibles open better than that, and I would have guessed somewhere in the $150 to $160 million range, it opened well above that to 180 million, which is huge. We have to assume this film cost about 200 million, which is the average budget for Pixar films these days. And then with marketing, let's say 100 million. So they have $300 million in the film, and it made 180 million on its opening weekend. This puts it on the pathway to a $500 million domestic take, and almost a lock for $1 billion. So this will be the first year in history that 3 films have made over $500 million domestically, and it's all by the same studio. Infinity Wars at $665 million. Black Panther is right under $700 million, and now we have this film, which should be able to... If this doesn't make $500 million, it's going to drop like a rock, which family films don't typically do. So Disney is about to break a record again and have the first time that 3 films have made $500 million domestically. So this is insane. What can you say? Once again, the mouse is dominating the world and taking over and just printing money at this point. Who cares if Solo bombed? This just makes up for all of it. Disney's making so much money this year, they can afford 5 Wrinkle in Times. I just subbed last night. Your content is terrific. Just outstanding. And that's coming from a doctor, Dr. Taco. So you should listen to this guy. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. That's right. I added a lot of subs these last few days. I added 93 subs yesterday, and already today I've added over 60. And the day before that it was like 50, according to Social Blade. But who's keeping track of these things? You know, it's not like I'm obsessive about them or anything. And we're on the cusp of passing 9,000 subscribers, which was taking a real long time to get there. It was kind of driving me nuts. I was like, what the hell? I thought it'd be at 10,000 by this point. Not complaining, it just seemed that's where it was going. But never dealt clickbait. As soon as you make a clickbait video about Star Wars, people subscribe. So it's good. All I need to do is make 5 more clickbait videos and I'll have 100,000 subs. Things are great right now. I totally feel secure in myself. Is Disney really going to be allowed to have 20th Century Fox? Well, that is interesting because I believe it was Comcast that just put the money up for Disney, for Fox at $65 billion. So there's competition. Yes, soon, people. We will be over 9,000. Oh, it's over 9,000! But that'll be exciting. Then we can get to 10,000 and then I can retire. Great video on KK and the fans, Pat. Thank you, One Bridge. A lot of negative comments on that video, and don't get me wrong, most are positive, and the reception's been great. It kind of had a steady growth. But I've seen so many negative comments saying, it's your fault that George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney. It's your fault that George Lucas sold it to this large corporation. You bullied George Lucas into selling these films, you snowflake, you toxic fan a-hole. It is your guys' fault. Quit trying to say that these actors should have a backbone and be able to handle things on social media when you guys are the ones who bullied George Lucas. Leave him alone. Who cares if he made a terrible trilogy and Indiana Jones 4 and Strange Magic and Red Tails and didn't make a significant film after Return of the Jedi, really? Well, who cares? It's George Lucas. He's awesome. We wouldn't have Pixar without George Lucas, asshole. Well, I would say to these people, who I mock, and I've been trolling rather well, I'd say, too, it isn't my fault that George Lucas sold to Disney, and if your whole excuse is that we bullied him because we didn't like his crappy prequel trilogy, well, then that says 2 things to me. 1, George Lucas is a weak individual who can't handle criticism or people talking shit. It's not like George has to go on the internet or go to public events and deal with this stuff. Every time I've ever seen George at a public event for Star Wars, everyone's sucking his balls off. Besides that, I don't know, he lives in a 9,000 square foot mansion, his life's pretty great, he's worth like, what, $5 billion? So I'm sorry that we bullied this multi-billionaire into selling the franchise because people complained about bad movies and him being an a-hole by not releasing the original trilogy in its theatrical form and good quality. Don't tell me they released it on DVD. Those DVDs are like, what, $4.80? They look like VHS tapes, for Christ's sakes. Don't give me that shit. Okay, George is basically just giving us the middle finger. there's this whole prequel defender thing that's popped up now that these Disney films have sucked. So people are going, see, we told you the prequels were good. Now you see what Disney did. Don't you miss George? No, I don't miss George. Just because Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are fucking things up doesn't mean George isn't terrible and gets a pass for ruining those franchises. I'm not going to go retroactively back and go, you know what? I feel bad for George now. We shouldn't have been so mean to him. Boo hoo hoo woo woo woo. I mean, talk about being a freaking snowflake. If it really was Star Wars fans that got a guy to sit down and sell his franchise for $4 billion, by the way, which he gave to charity, I believe. So overall, we did a good thing. We gave $4 billion to charity. If you're going to make us responsible for George Lucas selling it to Disney, then I personally take responsibility for that $4 billion that went to charity. You're welcome, starving children. Thank me. Not George Lucas. It was all me, just because I complained about a few movies. I'm the reason that you have a can of food this week. Yay! Also, if I can control George Lucas this well, I can't wait for him to buy me a new car and a new house and give me a mansion and give me the pool that I always wanted. Thank you, George Lucas. I love it. I love it so much. I have one of those mind control devices that the screensaver guy has from The Incredibles 2. Yes, George, yes. Give me all of the things I want. I manipulated him to do Red Tails. It was me, just to mock him even more. Plus, I wanted to see a film that completely bastardized one of the great heroic things about black people in World War II, because I'm that much of a racist a-hole. Oh, let's throw out some other criticisms that were on the video. Well, Pat, you see, you're a hypocrite because you're saying that it's okay to attack the filmmakers and actors on social media, but you don't want people to criticize the fans. So what are you saying? Well, I seem to remember in the video that I said there was no benefit to being mean to people, and there is a toxic side to fans, but the problem is that the media and some of the people are using this to blame the collective of all Star Wars fans. So what I was saying was an argument criticizing this narrative going around about toxic Star Wars fans, which has been covered in many major outlets and was going all over Twitter, and I was also debunking myths like we ruined Hayden Christensen's career. And after I debunked those things, I said that I don't have to feel sympathy for these people. Why should I have to care? Do I feel bad that Kelly Marie Tran got harassed off social media? Of course I do. But do I care? Not really, because I don't have to, because her life isn't connected to mine. I only care about getting a good movie and talking about the nuance in the situation. I was not saying it was okay to harass people, and then thus you couldn't say bad things about the fans. That's never said in the video, but this is what people like to do when they don't agree with your opinion. They misrepresent your context, skew your words, change it around, and then they go, oh, hey, look, you were saying this, you're a hypocrite, which is one of the laziest criticisms the internet's really got on the butthole lately, is the hypocrisy. You know what people hate more than anything? Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. No, I think people hate murder, rape, genocide, poverty more than hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, I would argue, is human nature. We've all been hypocritical at one point in our lives. It doesn't give you gotcha points when you try to point out a very minute hypocrisy. This is that liberal tactic. This is the left tactic. I got gotcha points by pointing out a contradiction. I win. No, that's not how it works. You have to take the argument as a whole. In that, 8-minute video, I make several points. Hey, we didn't stop Hayden Christensen as his career went down. Hey, we had nothing to do with Jake Lloyd's life going to crap. Hey, why did Natalie Portman's career not go bad? Hey, how could I forcibly make George Lucas sell the franchise for $4 billion? All of these elements I'm pointing out, and they go, well, you're saying it's okay to attack people. No, I'm saying that I don't care, and I don't have to care that people get attacked on social media. Here was the irony of this, by the way, too. Everybody was attacking me, these people, on the video, saying negative things towards me. So I kept saying to these people, well, stop harassing me. And they go, oh, I see what you're trying to do. Why don't you just leave the public space, and then I won't have to harass you and be a jerk anymore. Well, I'll tell you why I won't block you and I'm not leaving YouTube this public space. Because I'm not a pussy. I'm sorry that some of these people are pussies and can't deal with trolls like you guys, or people that are negative and toxic. It just kind of goes with the internet. But Pat, hold on a second now. Just because people can be mean on the internet doesn't mean they should be. I agree. I wish you would take your own advice. It's almost like you're all being hypocrites. Huh. But besides focusing on the negative here, which I must say, perhaps I'm getting a little butthurt. All of you have been wonderful. The positive reception of people saying that it was cathartic and they were feeling the things that they were feeling like I was wording a lot of points they had. Well, thank you. Thank you for being a Star Wars fan, and thank you for sticking with me. But I will not be harassed. I will not be pushed offline. Unlike Kelly Marie Tran, who I do feel bad for, but people like to claim I have no empathy and I'm a sociopath. No, I'm a sociopath because I kick dogs with my foot, I guess. Because what else would I kick a dog with? That's what makes me a sociopath, because I laugh when buildings are burning. But the main thing here is that the video was all about defending the collective of Star Wars fans and the toxic fan narrative that has become rampant. And now it's become this big buzz thing. Toxic fan culture. Nerd culture is just terrible. When human nature's just toxic. We used to burn women because we thought they were witches. You couldn't reveal your ankles. Kings used to send people out to die for religious reasons. People got killed and all sorts of shitty stuff happened for thousands of years. And that was all toxic. Human beings are just toxic. It doesn't change because we're on the internet, people. I'm sorry that some people out there are assholes. I'm probably one of them. But you know, you deal with it. You don't watch my videos. You don't read what I have to write. You don't listen to what I have to say. You can go off into your own little fantasy land and ignore it. You can go off and ignore these people. Kind of like Kelly Mitch Tran shutting down her Instagram. That was the right thing to do because she couldn't take the heat. If you're worried about getting burned, baby, then stay inside so the sun can't get you. That's how it is, but I'm not scared of the boogeyman. I'm not scared of the bad guys. I'm just gonna sit here and talk shit, which is what you should do, you punk-ass bitches. And that's all I'm saying. Don't be a punk-ass bitch, especially in 2018, when we all need to grow a little bit more of balls. Remember when the Chowskis made the awesome movie The Matrix? That's because they had the balls to make a movie like that then. I'd argue the reason their movies suck is because they don't have balls anymore, figuratively and literally. And that's really what I'm getting at here, alright? Stop being pussies, stop being bitches. You don't know how the game is played. You weren't here for the early forum culture. You had to take your bruises. You had to get hit like Kunta Kinte and say your name was Toby just because somebody didn't like you. That was the world that we were raised in. We had to deal with it. These are the rules of the streets, fags. And that's just the world we live in now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you weren't brought into it. That you don't understand how the internet works and the connectivity of social media and the World Wide Web. Ooh! That there's 7 billion people. Well, not entirely, but there's like 1 billion people that can get on the internet. So you're going to get jerks because so many people are on it. Back in the past, you would never go anywhere where there was 1 billion people around you. Welcome to the future. Nobody said it was going to be easy. Okay, it's Black Mirror, people. Welcome to it, and I love it. This is what I want. Chaos is a ladder. And guess what? You're falling down the ladder, mofo, and I'm climbing up higher and higher and higher. Higher to 9,000, baby. I love the ladder. I love the chaos. And I'm gonna keep riding it because it's freaking awesome. So, basically, eat dick. And that's all I have to say. You prequel defenders. You company men. I don't know, you George Lucas defenders, you retroactive people that are all coming out. F you. And quit saying, oh, you just like Empire. No, I like the OT. I like the comic books. I liked KOTOR. I like a lot of the video games. I like the Gendy Tartakovsky cartoon. Fandom doesn't mean you just blindly love shit. People didn't blindly love Batman and Robin just because we were all Batman fans. We complained about it, and then, oh my god, we got Batman Begins. It's almost like if you complain, they listen sometimes. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of how it works. Fandom doesn't mean that you have to love everything blindly. It means that you just state what you feel, that you're open and you're honest, and you try your best to find a pathway. Do people take Star Wars too seriously and let it define their lives too much? Goddamn right they do. People care way too much about Star Wars. It is just a movie franchise. But if they're gonna shit on me all over the place saying that I'm a toxic white male fan, and if George Lucas is someone I have to feel bad for now, even though his life's better than most people that have ever existed, and if I'm supposed to feel bad that Kelly Marie Tran dealt with some shit that I've dealt with on every facet of social media, then all I have to say is like, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm a bad person. And here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to keep living. I'm going to keep complaining because that's what we do. You could say I don't have an original thought. You could say that I'm just jumping on the bandwagon even though I've only made like 10 Star Wars videos ever. It's just what we want to say. This is YouTube. This isn't your mainstream media, non-fake news journalism, okay? This is people who are stating opinions. We are people that have a bias that we are willing to admit. I'm not trying to deceive you and lie to you. I'm being very upfront with who I am. That's the issue with these other people, is they're trying to act like they're being objective. They're trying to act like they're not biased or that they don't have company interests. I'm talking to you, Collider. Well, that's the issue here. I'm telling you that I have an issue with mainstream Hollywood. I have an issue with Disney owning everything. I have an issue with Kathleen Kennedy, and I have an issue with George Lucas. And I'm just going to say it up front. There's no deception here. There's no subterfuge. I am being upfront. That is what we can do now. That is why the internet is taking over, because people like reality. This isn't professional wrestling, motherfucker. This isn't a game. What do you think this is? Anyway, welcome to the show. You guys are so great. Pat, practice in the mirror. I don't practice anything except my masturbation technique, which I'm getting very, very good at, by the way. It's wonderful. Eat dick, Pat. Pat, I don't want to eat a knife. Well, you're going to have to, my friend. So where did Lucas touch you? On my left nipple specifically, but I've heard other people have gotten much worse. It wasn't bad. It was just up his own ass a bit. It was just up its own ass a bit. Yeah, sure. Oh, we're talking about Senshate. Sorry. I didn't know we were talking about. Was that the most expensive show ever? Eat a Snicker. Because you're not yourself when you're hungry. I actually just got done eating some ham and veggies, but thank you. I ate that pig. I love it. F veganism. Is that why Jupiter Ascending sucks? Because they got neutered? Yes. You ever notice a dog after it gets neutered? It lays around and lost a lot of its energy and passion. Same thing with the Wachowskis. Mr. Medicare is the internet boogeyman. Yes, yes. 30 minutes later, I look forward to the MCU fan base called sexist assholes when Captain Marvel bombs. It is funny, like, nobody says this about Marvel fans, the MCU fan base. They're just considered amazing because there's so many of them. You know how many Star Wars fans there are? Millions and millions of people. It's not just a bunch of nerds who live in the basement and hate women. Women like Star Wars too. Pat, sweetie, you do know that white men are okay to criticize. I guess so. I guess so. Have you watched Nurkish? He's got his own podcast series that's entertaining to listen to. I think I'm aware of it. Pat's rage, it's just too much. I do feel bad for some of the things that were said to Tran, since it's not her fault her character in the movie sucked. But Lucasfilm is using it to shield themselves from criticism. Exactly, that's what we were pointing out. It's deflection. That was the point of the video. They're using her getting attacked to attack us and act as if we're the reason that the films are not being received well. And it's a way to push away any valid criticism. That is the narrative. Do you think we're dumb? We can read between the lines of what's happening here. It's another excuse for Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, and Lucasfilm to avoid criticism by making us look bad. They're the ones that are using Kelly Marie Tran for their own selfish reasons. I never said people should attack her. That was never what I said once. Quit putting words in my mouth, or I'll put a dick in yours. Let the hate flow through you, bat. People forget that George called people racist for not liking Red Tails. George has said a lot of dumb stuff. I question his intelligence. Without George Lucas, we wouldn't have Irvin Kershner to make the better movie. That's true. That's true. Going back to 1980. I guess Empire's so good we gotta give George a lifetime pass for that one. When Pat gets to 10,000 subs, I want him as a guest on the High Council. That probably won't happen. Wow, Pat's really laying into salt. That salt that was on the planet in The Last Jedi? Possibly. Was that Ryan trying to tell us eat salt? What a douche. Wow, Pat. Wow. That was a classic Pat rant for you guys. I thought it would be fun and entertaining. I have a lot of energy. I had 2 cups of coffee today. I feel pretty damn good. The actress playing Captain Marvel is claiming that it doesn't matter that white male critics say about Wrinkle in Time. Well, I guess not, but I guess it matters what we did with our wallets because that movie bombed and lost Disney money. But of course, it's only white male critics that dislike that movie. No black people or women gave a bad review to Wrinkle in Time. That 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, it's all white males. Did your Mark Hamill only sign the contract he thought Disney didn't buy? That's hilarious. No, Pat, the point is she was never attacked or bullied off Instagram to begin with. It was all bullshit. Kelly Marie Tran has never given a statement confirming or denying. I haven't seen the evidence either. It's just something people say, and it's on the internet, so it has to be true. An intellectual wouldn't have made Star Wars in the first place. I am Craig, the genius, and I understand these things. Somebody trying to update Flash Gordon in the old movie serials would have to be a moron. Tran should stop being a baby. 58,000 Americans died so she could be horrible in a horrible movie. You could go on Cancer Cast. Yes, that sounds wonderful. They're saying the same thing now about Ocean's 8. Yes, because we all hate women. Everyone knows I hate Cate Blanchett, my favorite actress. Caffeine is a hell of a drug. I never drink coffee and just started pre-workout and holy. I worked out today. I did arms. I did 5 sets of dumbbell curls on each arm. Then I did 5 sets of tricep push-up. Tricep push-up is basically like a bench press, but it's a tricep press. Then I did 3 barbell curls. That was about, what was it, like 65 pounds I was doing? Because it was after the dumbbell. Then I did tricep dips. And then I did some stuff with some resistance bands. So, my arms are feeling pretty pumped. Not as much as I would like, though. I wish I could have gone a little bit more to failure. You're my favorite YouTuber. Thank you. Buy me a car. Please, Tyler. I need one. Now. Like right now, you have to buy me a car. This is The Price is Right, but you're on the spot. What do you think about Stan Lee getting elder abused by the Morgan fellow? I think it's awful. And anti-Semitic, because whatever. I made my own logo. What do you think? I can't really see it here, man. I'll give you my opinion on it when I can see it bigger. It's a little small in the chat. Sort of like, well, sort of like Bathory's penis. There's a photo of the Rose actress where she actually looks pretty. She's not an ugly person. They just made her look like crap in the movie. They made her look frumpy. White male, bigoted, racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic jackass. What are your thoughts on Seth MacFarlane? He sucks. He's a hack. His politics are shit. He's a terrible comedy writer, an even worse actor. I guess he can sing. He seems like a closeted homosexual, and I have no respect for him at all. He's not an artist. I don't care if American Dad's good. F that guy. My body's not jacked. It's not like I'm The Rock or something like that. I just like working out. I probably weigh like 170. I used to be in better shape before I hurt my pelvis. I used to do a lot of deadlifts and squats that were pretty. You know, I could deadlift over 300 pounds and stuff like that. But I definitely lost that size. I used to weigh like 180 and I was really fucking jacked. But I can't squat or do deadlifts anymore, so that really affected because I couldn't do powerlifting, which was the entire body. So I'm having to do more isolation stuff, which sucks. How would you like it if I attacked Bayonetta? There you go, misgendering me, Pat. No, Bathory, don't you know that your clit is a penis? That's what it is. So I'm technically correct. Or the penis is, I guess, the clit. I rolled out of bed around the crack of noon, ate 4 slices of cold pizza, and jerked off. That sounds like a song or something. I rolled out of bed around the crack of noon, ate 4 slices of cold pizza, and jerked off. Confirmed. Pat's the Rock. Half the Family Guy is just unfunny cutaway gags that have nothing to do with the plot of the episodes, and the other half is a ripoff of The Simpsons. Later, American Dad is quite awful. The early stuff's fun, though. I particularly like Roger and Steve? Yes. Is she not hot enough for your dad? That song's great. Great, great, great. Alright, people. I guess we should get to the box office. I've certainly talked enough. We've been pre-gaming this whole damn time. I like Orville, but the finale was shit. No, I love that he's playing dress-up Star Trek fan fiction with his friends, then he's getting paid to do it. I knew people who did that for years. It's only the tip of the penis, technically. Still, Bathory, you can give me a little leeway here. You can give me a little leeway. Yeah, King of the Hill's amazing. Everything Mike Judge has ever done is amazing. I'd highly recommend Tales from the Tour Bus, which I did a review on. Ironically, Simpsons has been turned into Family Guy. It's been a good old switcheroo. No, Wrinkle in Time was this year. I could see you get confused, though, because everyone forgot about it. Too much coffee. You're probably right, Craig. You're probably right. I would say you take too much Viagra, though, my friend. Put that thing back in where it belongs. You're gonna poke someone's eye out, man. Keep going. This is my first stream. It's okay, Dr. Taco. I wanted to start a little rough, but now I'm gonna be gentle. Now I'm gonna treat you right and make you think I love you before I leave in the morning and don't talk to you again or call you ever. But don't worry. I really am a sensitive person who cares about your feelings. Are you a fan of Rick and Morty? The first season of Rick and Morty I like quite a bit. I don't think it's been as good since. Thoughts on Andrei Tarkovsky movies? Are all of them great or just some bad? No, they're all great. I've been praising his stuff many times on this channel. I should do some videos on it. In particular, Ivan's Childhood, which was his first film, I still think is his best film. Some people would say Solaris, some people would say Stalker, some people would say his Bergman homage. Even though he kind of influenced Bergman's 70s work in a way, because he was... but for me, Ivan's Childhood's one of the greatest films I've ever seen, quite frankly, and I think it takes a lot of his aesthetics and things that he does that I think are a little bit more abstract and actually makes them more matter-of-fact in a way that his other films are, but I haven't seen an Andrei Tarkovsky film that isn't great. They're all great. He's one of the only guys that's on Kubrick's level, I would say. I mean, for me, he's one of the only people. Ridley Scott in his prime, like Alien and Blade Runner, but those guys are some of the best technical filmmakers of all time. I mean, nobody has the lighting and the shot composition and the way a shot can go on like Tarkovsky does. I mean, he's just amazing. He really... I've talked about him a lot, though. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. Yeah, Mirror's really good. I've just always felt like that wasn't so much... I really like Mirror, but I still think Ivan's Childhood has a little more of a punch to it. Do you like The Office? Yes. Yes, I'm a big Office fan. Just got a victory royale, Pat. Give me my recognition. Well, there you go, Tyler. I give it to you. How did you like those fan-made posters based on your pitches for episode 8 and 9? I loved them. I thought they were great. I really like the idea of Rise of the Empire. I think that's a great name. Lifting question. Is it possible for a skinny guy to start small on a bench, 125, and work his way up to 300 and not make any gains? It's unlikely. I don't see how that would happen. You would have to get bigger. If you're benching 300 pounds, you're going to gain mass, because you're doing a compound movement and your strength. Now, there is a difference between strength training and bodybuilding. They are two different things. You can't see a guy that isn't jacked lift 500 pounds or 600 pounds on a deadlift and then see a guy that's huge not be able to lift as much. Because with bodybuilding, you make slow progress, where you add a little bit more weight, like 5 pounds, and you work on like biceps. You do a lot of isolation workouts, and it makes your muscles look bigger, but that doesn't necessarily mean your strength is up. Where if you're doing powerlifting and a lot of stuff where you're adding more to your deadlift, which is what I used to do. You add more to your squat, your deadlift, your bench press. You will gain a lot of strength in your whole body, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll show that you'll look big. Or even if you're doing body weight workouts, if you're doing push-ups and pull-ups and dips and all that stuff, that doesn't always mean that you're going to get jacked. It's also a lot of it's genetics. You're only going to look so big, but that doesn't dictate your strength. So strength doesn't equal size, and size doesn't equal strength. You could see a really big guy, and that doesn't mean he's as strong as he looks. And this is very true for a lot of bodybuilders. But typically, if you're lifting 125 pounds and you're skinny, and then you're lifting 300 pounds, you are going to have a bigger chest and bigger triceps and all of that. You're just going to. That's just, I've never seen it, so yes, I don't think it's possible. That doesn't mean you're going to be huge. A lot of it has to do with how much you eat. If you get enough calories and protein to add mass, if you're eating the carbs. I just talked about Ivan's childhood. I don't know if Ingmar Bergman's better, because I think he's a little bit more limited in a sense. If he didn't make Fanny and Alexander and The Seventh Seal, which are kind of companion films, I would not feel. And Bergman's certainly not a better technical filmmaker when it comes to shot composition and all that stuff. I mean, once again, Fanny and Alexander is a masterpiece. I would say that is his Hamlet. But I would say Bergman. I would say Tarkovsky is certainly did things that I'm not necessarily sure Bergman could have done. That doesn't mean he couldn't have, but I don't know if he could have done the stuff that's in Stalker. I don't really know. But I think Fanny Alexander is one of like the 20 best films ever made. I also think Seventh Seal is one of the best films ever made. I think Persona's great. Scenes from a Marriage is great. I mean, obviously Bergman has a lot. I'm not too big on Wild Strawberries. But yeah, a lot of great films in his filmography. But Tarkovsky also made a lot less films. Bergman made like 45 movies or some crap. Scenes from a Marriage is probably my favorite. I like that movie a lot too. Don't worry about looking big. Just keep lifting. That's good. I actually like all of Tarkovsky's films, but I do think his last one is slightly disappointing. Just shared your channel on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you, Dr. Taco. Tell Dr. Burrito I said hello. Live Rewind Hype. That's what we're doing here, people. Live Rewind Hype. That's the new name of the show. By the way, I apologize for not doing Saturday Night Fever. There's a reason for that. I thought that I was going to go see The Incredibles 2 on Friday. Any protein powder. Just go get some whey protein. One of the shakers. Get some peanut butter, some chocolate milk. Shake it up. Or water if you want. Whatever you want to do, and drink it. It's really just a supplement to give you that extra protein you need. It's better to get it from food. It's better to get it from chicken. Or steak. Or beans. And your carbs should be rice and dry potatoes. Do not put butter and all that crap on your potatoes. That's not good. That's just fattening. Healthy fats like olive oil, almonds, nuts, and stuff like that. Cottage cheese is a good source of protein, but mainly you want to get the majority of your protein from food. Like, let's say you need protein per weight. So let's say you weigh like 200 pounds and you want 180 grams of protein. You want to at least get 130 to 50 of that in food. You know, be it fish, chicken, what have you, which sucks. You have to eat a lot. And then if you can't get that last 50 or so or 30, then do it with a protein shake. Because it's not going to get as much size. Protein shakes just kind of to help you out if you're having a hard time eating the extra food. But I would suggest, though, trying to get as much from food as possible and meal prep. You're just going to have to get used to eating a lot of chicken, a lot of organic peanut butter, a lot of beans, a lot of fish, and eating rice all the time. And get some greens in there, too. Get some peppers, get some broccoli, eat that kind of stuff. Basically, if you eat like 3 meals like that a day, and they're big portions, and you want to throw a shake in there, you'll be all right. It depends on how big you want to get to. I prefer the theatrical cut to Fanny and Alexander, but I do own both. I find the theatrical cut has better pacing. I think it just flows better. But both cuts are good. Now, Scenes from a Marriage, I think it's honestly probably better to watch the television version. We should get to the box office. Pat, do I need to worry about Incredible spoilers? I'm not going to be spoiling it in this video. I did that yesterday. Oh, Fanny Alexander's incredible. It's an amazing, amazing movie. It's him going back to a lot of the spirituality, Silence of God stuff that he did in The Seventh Seal, but also mixing it with some of the stuff he developed in Wild Strawberries and Persona. But having it pop and color, it's almost like when Kurosawa made Ron. It's him older and having to be older to make that film. None of his films have that production value. It's on the level of Amadeus or something like Leopard, which is a film with amazing production value. You can get on the Criterion Collection. Burt Lancaster. It's one of the best looking films. And it's one of the best films about childhood. There's another film I'd highly recommend, a Canadian film called My Uncle Anton, or whatever, and it's an amazing film that I would highly recommend to people. Creatine. Yeah, creatine's good. Pat, I really like this girl, and I'm really nervous to ask her out. Tips. I'd have to know all the situation. I can't just give you blind advice on asking a girl out just because you like her. You gotta give me some deets, buddy. What's your relationship to this girl? How do you look in comparison to her? What's your social status in comparison to her? I need a bunch of factors here. It's not just, hey, I like this girl, what do I do? Every situation has to be approached on an individual basis. A lot of the people say body weight, but protein and calories are about lean mass, aka calc your body fat percentage, and subtract that from your weight. A lot of people say it's body weight, but protein are about lean mass. Well, you know, and here's the thing. It's about calories and all that stuff, too. If you want to gain weight, you eat more calories. It's really that simple. If you want to lose weight, you eat less calories than... Because if you're not burning them... But you're burning a lot of calories if you're working out intensely. So you have to eat more. And you need the protein. But, I would honestly recommend doing as much body weight as you can. If you can do push-ups and pull-ups and all that stuff, that's great for your back. Instead of making yourself injury, you know, trying to build your body up a little bit more, so then you have the strength to have good form. You need a good strength base, because if you have bad form, you can really screw up your workouts if you're not that strong. I don't know Comic Book Cast 2. Do you think Incredibles 2 can make more domestically than Jurassic World 2 overall? Yes, and it should. It should. What are your thoughts on this year's E3 and Capcom ditching the Devil May Cry reboot series in favor of Devil May Cry 5? I prefer having Devil May Cry 5. Cobra Kai advice. I grew up in black and white media, so I have no preference between that color. Pat is obviously a Chad. I mean, I got into working out late in life. You know, I didn't start working out till I was like 23, and I'm 28 now, so I've only been doing it 5 years, so I'm still learning. But I'm kind of an obsessive person, and I do a lot of reading, so I've read several books and done a lot of research on exercise and body weight and training, and I've done different kinds of workouts. I'd say I'm a dietary master. I eat pretty damn good and clean. I'd say I'm pretty good at dieting more than most people. A lot of it's discipline and a lifestyle change. Eat less calories to lose weight. I wish that had worked for me, but my your metabolism. You have a metabolism disorder? That sucks. Oh, that's typically true advice for most people, Bathory. I'm sorry to hear that. Your metabolic disorder. Damn, I didn't know you had that. Well, there's got to be a way around that, right? Jurassic World 2 looks stupid and pretentious. And don't forget about Chad, so then if you've played Friday 13th, Chad's a dick. No, I do not watch that. Tyler, I do not. Sorry. I don't watch everything. Let's get to the box office, though, shall we? Just to be clear, I was talking about the amount of protein specifically. Oh, okay, it's kind of tough to tell the context when it comes to chat. You know, but, also, it depends on if you want to gain mass. If you're a real skinny guy, then you should probably eat more carbs. If you're wanting to lose weight and look better and tighter, I would also suggest doing high-intensity cardio, stuff like sprints. And, you know, stuff like that. And you can't forget your abs. You can't forget your glutes. You can't forget hamstrings. You can't forget calves. You can't forget your forearms. All that stuff matters, too. You can't just, like, focus on stuff that looks good. You have to try to make sure your whole body as a whole is consistent. Because you can also get injury that way. Or you can have your body look pretty weird. I think I'm the only one whose favorite Star Wars movie is... There's a lot of people that New Hope is their favorite one. That's a pretty common thing. I've heard some people say Return of the Jedi, but for the most part, it either seems to be New Hope or Empire. Okay, let's get on this. Race 3, 1.6 million. I don't know what this film is. I don't think anyone does. Gotti, 1.6 million. That's a pretty bad opening weekend. How many theaters is that in, though? 503. A Wrinkle in Time, I guess they opened it more in some more theaters because it made 1.7 million this weekend. I don't know how. Did they put it in IMAX? So that crossed 100 million, and it's made 132 million worldwide. That is terrible. Book Club's done really well. Book Club has made $62 million domestically. That's pretty good. The kind of film it is. I'm impressed. Adrift made $2.1 million this weekend, 60% drop, $26 million worldwide on a $35 million budget. I think you can call that a bomb. Infinity War is not slowing down. Not only has the film passed $2 billion, but it's going a little bit beyond that. It made $5.2 million this weekend. That puts it at $664 million domestically. It shouldn't be able to reach Black Panther, 700 million, but it doesn't have to. That's amazing. That foreign total, though, 1,355 million, 2,019 million worldwide. I was going to make a video on this the week Avengers crosses 2 billion and talk about it, but I didn't get around to making it. And plus, that Star Wars video did so well. It's got like 9,000 hits now or something that I didn't feel the need to. I just had a bad schedule this week. The moving's got me really stressed. The remake of Superfly by Director X, which is fucking hilarious. There's a guy called Director X. I gotta say, this movie had a cool trailer. It got pretty bad reviews, but I like this poster too. That's a cool poster, isn't it? But I do like the trailer. I think the trailer's like quiche. It's kind of schlocky and fun. $16 million. I've heard this film's like a long music video. $16 million budget. Of course this had a bad opening weekend because nobody cared about a Superfly remake. I don't think this generation knows anything about Superfly except the soundtrack. $6.3 million opening weekend, $8 million overall. This film shouldn't make much more than its budget. I don't think people are loving it. You think it might have done a little bit better just because of the black audience out there, but whatever. But once again, there's a guy called Director X. That's hilarious. Hereditary did not have as big of a drop as I thought it would, 48%. I thought with that D cinema score, the film would drop in like 55 to 60%. So $7 million this weekend, $27 million domestic. I don't know what the budget is for this movie, but maybe it could make $40 million. Very acclaimed film, though. Deadpool 2, $8.8 million this weekend, 37% drop. $110 million budget, $294 million domestic. This film will make $300 million, but it will not reach the 363 of the original. And it will reach $700 million, but it should not pass the $783 million of the original. But with a $110 million budget, a $700 million total should profit them at least $200 million. So the Deadpool franchise is still highly profitable. Solo, a Star Wars story. $9 million this week and 42% drop. It's at $192 million. Still hasn't reached $200 million. It had an $84 million opening weekend. This is a film with a $250 million budget, a $100 million marketing campaign. So you have $339 million worldwide. The studio said there's been sources saying that they will lose at least $50 million. That didn't turn around for them this week. So this is still officially a flop. And, you know, what are you going to do? Tag, the comedy about friends who've been playing one game of tag for 30 years, but they've never gotten their friend Jeremy Renner. $28 million budget, $14.6 million opening weekend, which is okay. Word of mouth's really going to see how this film plays out in the long run, if it can make $50 million, if it can perform like Game Night did, but Game Night had a slightly better opening weekend. I don't know how this film's going to play. It got pretty mixed reviews. You have a cast this good. What a hell of a cast. It feels a little wasted. I mean, you got Ed Helms, John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, that guy from New Girl, that black dude who shows up and stuff sometimes. So that's not a bad opening weekend, but it's like a comedy opening weekend from like 6 years ago. Ocean's 8 had a decent second weekend. Not a great second weekend, but that probably had a lot to do with Incredibles. 53% drop. $19.5 million this weekend. It's at $79 million. And it's got a $70 million budget and $116 million worldwide. This film is going to make $100 million. I thought it would end at $130 million with the same multiplier as the original, but looking at this, I would assume that it's not going to make much more than like 120 million. Unless there's something happening that I don't know. But let's go back to the original film and see what its second week drop was. The first film. I guess it had a pretty big drop too, 42% to 22 million. But then it had a 33%, and then it increased 14%. That film, I don't know, how did that film end up making 183 million? What the hell? Oh, I guess it did. Oh, it was released around the holidays, so it held really well during Christmas. Huh. Smart move. Smart movie, yeah, because that original film made 183 million, which today is like $300 million. So this film was a huge, huge hit. It's funny it had a bigger back then. That budget with inflation, that'd be well over $100 million budget. But you know, it is what it is. So I don't know if this film, but still, you know, it's an Ocean's film. It didn't get great reviews. That's probably not helping it. That people aren't loving it. So a 53% drop is, but it did have kind of a bigger opening weekend than people thought. 41 million was a little higher. A lot of people are saying 35. So who knows? But it's going to make 100 million, which will look good for the studio, for Warner Brothers, and at least they can say that we made the movie with women and it wasn't a total bomb. Although I don't know how much profit this film's going to make. It obviously hasn't opened everywhere yet. This film, I think, would need to make like 250 million to really be considered like a hit. So we're gonna have to wait on the foreign box office to officially call this one. It's a little too early to officially say how well it performed. Damn, there'll be more gene therapy in 20 years, so keep your fingers crossed for that. Solo, a Star Wars bomb. A lot of fake accounts are suddenly giving The Last Jedi a 5-star rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's hilarious. Last Jedi Blu-ray and DVD sales are down a whopping 56% from Force Awakens. That's not shocking. It's made $700 million less, and it clearly didn't have as much positive reception. Funny, I'm writing a treatment for a film that tells the story of a group of nuns locked in an epic game of Monopoly for 75 years. That sounds amazing. That sounds like the greatest film of all time. Beth, if you put on any muscle, it'll help your metabolism. That's true. Why don't you try to speed the metabolism up even though you have that issue? Why don't you try to make your metabolism faster? I still think Bath must be a secret hottie. One can only hope. How do you get nice, healthy glutes? You gotta do butt workouts. You gotta do squats. Deadlifts kind of help. There's one workout that really helps. I can't remember the name of it, but it's when you put like a weight, kind of above your crotch area, and you lean your butt down. Usually, you put your arms up against like a weight bench or something like that, and you go your butt down, and then you lift your butt up. And you go down and up, and you'll actually feel your glutes getting activated when you do this. I used to do this all the time because I had a terrible butt. But you dip your butt down and you dip it back up. It's kind of like the workout people do on the floor where they have their knees up and they're going up and down with their ass. You do that with a weight and you lean up against something. That'll really, really help your glutes. Your glutes are only going to get so big, though, because of genetics. But you can get them toned and strong. You'll see a lot of girls that work out a lot that have amazing legs, like really muscular legs. Like nice calves, quads, hamstrings. And they don't have a naturally big butt, but they have a nice toned butt because they work their butt out. You can get that. You're not always just going to get a big butt. But you can get something that does look nicer and a little round because you worked it. But mainly, I would just say do squats and lunges. Keep adding weight to the squats, keep adding weights to your lunges, and that'll do something. You'll definitely get more than what you had. One of my biggest movie regrets was seeing Jurassic World over Fury Road. Yeah, that's a good point. How old are you, and also, do you play Fortnite? I am 28, and I do not play Fortnite. My glutes are very mediocre. I don't get to work them much anymore because I don't get to do squats since I had an injury. Or deadlifts. At one point, I had pretty decent glutes, but a lot of that, once again, is genetics. It is really hard to get a big butt if you don't have one. But they're not, whatever. I still do some stuff. I still do body weight lunges and stuff like that. And I do some stuff, but I do need to work on that. That is a place where I'm at fault. Kind of like my shoulders. I used to work my shoulders a lot more, and I've kind of let that go. Problem is, because of that disorder, I try to accumulate fluid, so my weight goes up. Makes me less hungry, and I get even more tired. I think I'm the only one who's... Oh, sorry, we already read that. Pat's masturbation technique was just revealed. Beth, hell yeah, is this Hereditary? Hereditary's a movie, Dawn. People do need to stay away from the episode 9 or they will just get away with all their bullshit. I do think episode 9 is going to make less over or around the same as Last Jedi, maybe like 1.2 billion or something. I do squats every day, but sit-ups are painful. Then do crunches. Do different ab workouts. Hang up and get up higher, like with your arms, or buy those things you can get at Walmart, the straps where you can put your arms in them, and do crunches that way, where you're up and you're moving your knees up to your chest. Or there's all sorts of different ab workouts. You don't have to do setups. In fact, I don't even think setups are the best ab workout. I think there's several ab workouts that have worked much better for me. Here's another idea. Instead of having Death Troopers, Black Armored Stormtroopers for Rogue One, have them as Phasma Special Elite Squadron for your pitch for Episode 8. Yeah, sure, why not? Why not, people? Ew! No, it's only passed from mother to daughter, but it's not genetic. It's a problem with abnormal hormones during pregnancy. Did you have a baby, Bathory? Yeah, planks. Yeah, there's a lot of different ab workouts. You don't have to limit yourself to setups. You really can do... I used to do like 12 different types of ab workouts. They were all intense. I used to do this... I mean, I used to do some really intense, like, 20-minute ab workouts. Does Bathory have a baby? Is that what I'm reading? Are you Mama Bathory? Besides being the mama of the chat, do you have a kid out there that you let go? That you don't take care of anymore? Or are you one of those chicks that's your puppy? Holy moly, I was doing cable crunches. Took a break to turn this on and heard this. Well, that's a funny coincidence. Listen to Sam Harris. He's all for meditation. You know, one thing really ticks me off is TM, Transcendental Meditation, that you have to pay $1,300 to hear a mantra. And guys like Jerry Seinfeld and David Lynch and all these people are telling you how amazing it is. And they're like, the scientific and pure research is overwhelming for that. And it's no more than any other form of meditation than how it can benefit your life. There's like this mythical pretentious. It's like the Scientology of meditation. Like, I did a lot of research on it, and I was like, man, these guys are a-holes. And I know they don't make money. I know that it goes to, like, I know it's non-profit. But, yeah, the whole TM craze. And I've done TM, but that whole thing is just so... What is meditation? Are you putting that up as a joke? Or is it something that you don't actually know what it is? Because I don't want to... I do other ab workouts in general, but sit-ups are annoying. Well, then stop doing them. You don't have to do sit-ups. Do something else. Thoughts on the movie Drive and Nicholas Winding Refn in general? I'm a big fan of Nicholas Winding Refn. I really like the Pusher trilogy. Valhalla Rising. Bronson is amazing. I like Drive a lot. I think it's kind of like a Luc Besson film or a Michael Mann film. It kind of reminds me of Thief. It's a little Walter Hill, the driver. I really I think parts of it remind me of kind of like The Professional. Really like it. I think the soundtrack's amazing. Albert Brooks is great in it. The cinematography is amazing by Brian. It's Bryan Singer's photographer, by the way. His DP made that shot that film. The editing, the pacing, it's his best film that he's made in America so far, like that he's come genre. I'm actually an Only God Forgives apologist, but it is a mess. And Neon Demon was a big disappointment, but I do think he's got a great visual style. He tries too hard a little bit to be David Lynch. I wish he would go back to the Pusher trilogy, Refn. That was grittier. I think he's at his best when he does crime stuff. A lot of people think that his films are all just quiet and don't have dialogue characterization, but that makes me think they didn't go watch his earlier work, like the Pusher trilogy, which that's not true for. But I feel like he has gotten up his own ass a little bit too much. That's unfortunate. I do feel like Refn has lost his way. But his early work, I think, is all great. I think he had a great track record. No, I meant that we developed the disorder while we're fetus. Oh, okay, while your mother is in pregnancy. Okay. If anything, I would have trouble getting pregnant and not having a miscarriage. Oh, that's sad. We need a Bathory's genetics to live on in this world. I came by on y'all talking about workouts and masturbation. It's kind of weird. Is this about Fellini again? Yeah, it's all about the Fellini. Pat, do you swim laps? I don't. I don't have access to do so, or I would probably swim more. I don't really do a lot of cardio lately. I used to do sprints or high intensity interval training where, you know, you do a lot of high knees, burpees, seriously, I asked many people about meditation and nobody was able to explain to me that made sense. You basically sit down and you get quiet and you try to make yourself not think. You try to be present in the moment and try not to let your thoughts overwhelm you because we're thinking all day. And you breathe. You focus on your breathing, kind of like yoga when you're working out. You need to know your breathing and be aware of your breathing. And just try to tune things out like stress and all that. It's mainly trying to discipline yourself to be able to be quiet and spend time with yourself. If you can set for 20 minutes or a half hour without feeling the need to have a distraction, and just kind of be happy existing in that kind of way and keeping yourself calm and knowing your breath and collected. That's it, very simplified. People complicate it a little bit more than that, but it's basically a discipline to try to be patient and be able to do things without being having things to do, and trying to give yourself kind of an escape from stress of life or thinking about death or all the things in life. Just kind of some people say they can get a high from it, and they can get euphoric from it. I've heard people say that. That is what I'm doing while I'm sitting on the toilet. I mean, it's really... meditation's often exaggerated, but there you can kind of get to levels. I used to meditate a lot. You can kind of get yourself more into it, where you can go longer and you can feel better from it. I mean, I used to feel very excited from. Sometimes it would make me feel usually really good, but it doesn't. It doesn't work for everyone. It's not a universal thing. I think some people react to it differently. It's basically just sitting and being calm and quiet and trying to get your head clear, really. Oh yeah, no, people who claim they get special wisdom or it makes them healthier or it keeps you from getting like blood, all that stuff, that's all bullshit. Nothing to distract your mind. So does having a fan or some other background noise in the room count? You have to try to tune them out. You have to try to make it about your breathing. You know, when you go... You're trying to focus on that and keep yourself focused on that. And maybe you're thinking of a mantra. Maybe you're thinking of like calm, asa, and you're just trying to keep your head down. Because the idea is that we have so much now that overwhelms us, although this has existed for years, but you have so much now that distracts you and overwhelms your head. If you can get yourself to be calm and patient, it'll make you a calmer person and a more relaxed person in general. And there are some studies that have backed up this a little bit. So but I would say anything like that's good in life, like working out. If you're focused, if you're present in the working out, if you're present in meditation, if you're present doing something, if you can focus on something very intensely without it being too much that's pulling you apart, I think that can be healthy for you. But you have to it is like anything else. It takes a lot from the individual and how much you put into it, really. I think him doing Star Wars would be crazy. I did the meditation as real action, but I ain't gonna cure anything. Yeah, for sure, it doesn't work that way. People who tell you that are lying. That's really not the purpose of it, and it's very silly that some people try to claim that meditation does all these magical things that it doesn't do. That's just bullshit, quite frankly. Yes, Bathory, we need your intelligence into your offspring. So somebody has to get Bathory pregnant. I will be taking possible father, baby daddies, and I will pick one for Bathory. You all have to send me photos, so I can see what you guys look like, because I'm not giving Bathory an UGG. And I need all of your background information, your education, how much money you make a year, because you got to support this thing. I would also say running's a good thing. Jogging, well, not necessarily, maybe not run, but if because you can get joint pain. But but stuff like jogging can do that. If you've ever run a lot, if you ever sprint a lot, you can feel or work out. You can feel that euphoric. You can feel things that are like, man, I feel high. Like I feel really good. Like that can happen when you're exercising. Certain things to do that. You can get your brain to go to those places sometimes, where you get dopamine, and you can feel really good. It does happen with working out. If you're having a very intense workout, it can happen. I've certainly had that happen before. It can help reduce low blood pressure, but a lot of things can. Yes, you will be responsible for child support. That all factors in. My sperm might be too old and lazy, unfortunately. Yeah, you see that sperm wiggling? Craig's sperm has got a walker. It's going real slow. I'm sure Bathory's on the other side of the computer just completely uncomfortable right now. Just like, oh god, why are you doing this to me? I'm gonna mute all of you. Pat, that's 2 steps from being a pimp. I guess that's true. I'm not trying to be her pimp. First, wait for me to get a cure unless you want me to miscarry or get another woman to carry it. Oh, yeah, like the thing where you, some woman other carries the baby with your egg and stuff like that. Sure, let's do that. Now we have to find 2 people. We have to find a baby daddy? I guess today is Father's Day. I guess, yeah. So thematically, we're consistent. Nice try, Pat. I'm not giving it. Yeah, I also need your credit card information, your social security numbers. I need your bank statements and your address and all of that, please. So I can give Bathory a suitor. And then we need to find a surrogate. So I need all of your information, please. I don't know what she looks like. Show a picture of a... She looks like Bayonetta. There you go. She looks exactly like that, people. There's a... I promise. I wouldn't lie. I've never lied. A cure for being a woman. That's what she's looking for a cure for. Stances on gun control. I don't like it. I don't think we should control guns. I think people have the right to own guns. Do I think maybe there should be a little bit of regulation on how people get guns, or specifically what guns certain people own? Maybe. I mean, I'm not against the discussion, but do I think there should be this like ban on all guns, or that people shouldn't be allowed to buy or carry guns? No. I think people have the right to bear arms. But I'm not as black and white as some people. But I am a libertarian, so I am pretty pro-gun. But I'm not as some people where I think, you know, it's one way or the other. I think there is a middle ground we can find and discuss. But everyone's so extreme, you can't have that discussion anymore about guns. Which is unfortunate. You can't, everyone's so extreme about it. It's made it really toxic to even have a conversation about it. Some people, they say that they don't want to ban all guns, but that's exactly what they want. And then other people keep going to buy AR-15s every time there's something about a gun control thing, and I don't care if you go buy them, like, whatever, you have the right to. I'm not telling anyone they're crazy. Like, I don't like the term gun nut, because that usually is just somebody referring to somebody that's a nut that happens to own guns. Somebody that's crazy that owns guns, not that they're crazy because they own guns, so I don't like that term, because it's disingenuous. But... Bathory, how old are you? Are you like 24 or something? I don't know how old you are. I can't cure women from being women. Well, according to some people, we can. We just make them men now. So that's the secret. That's the ticket. Homosexual. John Lovitz. It stinks. Yeah, that is the issue right now of living in America. Everything's extreme. Everything's extreme on both sides. I'm not just some blind defender of the right because I agree with conservative values a little bit more. Gun control nut is a more accurate term. Yeah, there's different. Yeah, it's just people, they buy into extremes, and they take a lot of disinformation. A lot of people that want to ban guns don't know anything about guns, and they never shot a gun. They don't know anything about them. The stuff they say is completely false. They don't want to look into the statistics on gun deaths. And then other people just say, well, I should be able to own guns, all guns I want. You know, and I think some people would like to own a tank. It's weird. Yeah. Homosexual. It stinks. I love John Lovitz. He's great. That's the ticket. It's me. What signs do you show Seth MacFarlane being a homo? He sings show tunes. I rest my case. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not for taking people's guns. I don't want people to misconstrue anything I'm saying. I just think there's a better discussion we could be having. I blame the media for a lot of this. I think a lot of people have contributed to the current issue we're in right now, for sure. I don't like the Parkland kids. They're little celebrity fuckers. I don't like that stuff. I don't like any of it, for sure. So don't think but you know, I do think there's a better discussion, but people don't want to have it, basically. And a lot of people have convinced themselves that if we get rid of guns, that'll fix all the violence in this country, even though illegal guns come through this country just like illegal drugs come through Mexico and different parts of the world. So we don't live in a country where we have secure borders, so you can't just say we can get rid of guns, because guns come through illegally all the time. We can't just... We're not like Australia, where it's easy to have gun control, or Japan. But I will make this argument. If you want Japan's gun policy, then can we have Japan's immigration policy? But they only conveniently use the policies that they want to reinforce their argument, but then they ignore the immigration policies and other things like that. The Bohemian Rhapsody trailer is fantastic. It has some of the best editing I've seen in a trailer in the last few years. Bryan Singer shot most of that movie, too. And I don't know if he'll get directing credit, because he left the movie in the last few weeks. Okay. Pat is very woke. I did just watch The Matrix this week, so I'm all in tune to the red pill woke thing. Okay, Incredibles 2. 180 million. Holy crap. I would say that's an incredible opening weekend. Wouldn't you, folks? It's pretty incredible. Possibly too incredible. I mean, I don't know if anyone predicted this. I saw some people say 165 million. I saw some people say 150 million. I mean, because there was a lot of projections that were saying 115 million for months, and people are going, it's going to open higher than that if Finding Dory opened. And I agreed. I was thinking 150 million. The first Incredibles, well, let's go down the history here, but let's just knock this out. 180 million opening weekend is huge. There's no way to spin this as anything but an overwhelming positive. That is well above expectations and what they could have hoped for. The Friday was 71 million, which is crazy. 58 million Saturday, and a 49 million Sunday estimate. Let's go back to the first Incredibles by the great Brad Bird, who made my favorite American animated film ever, The Iron Giant. The first Incredibles opened in 2004 and had a $70 million opening weekend. This film cost $92 million. It made $261 million domestically and $633 million worldwide. Now, here's the funny thing. Finding Nemo made a lot more than this, both domestically and worldwide. Finding Nemo made over 800 million and made 300 something million domestically. So Finding Nemo was the film that made more, but this film's the sequel looks like it's going to make one. I think that has a lot to do with people wanted a sequel more to The Incredibles than they did the other franchises in the Pixar canon, is that they wanted a sequel because the film ended with hype. I mean, I honestly think The Incredibles 2 should have come out in 2008 or 10. I think it should have come out years ago. It's one of the weird things I had with the movies. I felt like 14 years felt a little... It just felt too long for a movie that takes place the next day at the original. But this was a huge hit. This is one of the most critically acclaimed films, animated films of the last decade. 90 on Metacritic, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. It won 2 Academy Awards. I believe it won... I know it won Best Animated Film. I don't know if it won Best Score. I can't remember. And Brad Bird, of course, won another Oscar for Ratatouille. The score by Michael Giacchino. So this was a massive, massive hit. It wasn't as big as Finding Nemo, but people love it. And I think this film's lasted. I think kids still watch it on DVD. My nephews watch it. I think little boys... I think the superhero thing didn't die off. So The Incredibles has stayed relevant for 14 years because of superhero films. Because of... it kind of being geared, I think, to boys in a lot of ways. And I think that it's just held up as a movie. I still think it's a great movie all these years later. So when you look at adjusted for ticket price inflation, the original Incredibles made $384 million, which is huge. And Ratatouille made $275 million. Mission Impossible 4 made $243 million. So this film, and The Iron Giant was a bomb, unfortunately, But this film should pass all of these films, even when adjusted for ticket price inflation, which is pretty rare. You think a film that comes out 14 years later wouldn't be able to pass that as a sequel. But even with that, this film should make... It should at least make 450 million domestic, but it should make 500 million. It got an A+ cinema score, I think, which is crazy. So audiences are certainly liking it. It didn't get as good of reviews as the first one, but it still got pretty decent reviews. Okay, sorry. My expectations for Incredible 2 was incredible. That's funny. But yeah, Coco last year, which we didn't keep up with after a point, because Coco had a $225 million budget, and I said it had a disappointing domestic date, which I still think it did, $209 million, because it was very acclaimed for that budget. But Coco was a huge international hit. It made $806 million worldwide, which is huge. So even though I think, just for its budget, it didn't do great domestically, worldwide, that film made a lot of money, and it made profit for the studio. Then we have Inside Out, which was the last film by the studio I think was actually great. Directed by Pete Docter. That cost $175 million and made $90 million opening weekend, $356 million domestically, $857 million worldwide. Now, we look at adjusted ticker price inflation. That film made $395 million. Monsters, Inc. made $450 million, and Up made $360 million. So the original Monsters, Inc. is still one of the highest grossing Pixar films when you look back at it because of adjusted for ticker price inflation. So the question is, how high can Incredibles 2 go? Can it make $550 million? Can it make $1.1 billion? Can it make $1.2 billion? It's up in the air right now. It should make $1 billion no matter what. But the question is, how much will it make? And it's really tough to tell on the opening weekend. Of course, we have Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Sam Jackson, Brad Bird's back as Edna, Bob Odenkirk, Catherine Keener. So this is just amazing. This opened well above expectations, including Black Panther and Infinity War, which opened above expectations. So 3 Disney films this year went way above the tracking, had the best possible opening weekend they could have had. And, this is just a great year for the studio. They're going to have 3 films that should make $500 million domestically. They're definitely going to have the most profits at the end of the year. There's no doubt about it. They made $500 million off Black Panther and this movie. They could easily make $400 something million off this film. Disney's going to be dominating the profits at the end of the year. This is a big moment for Brad Bird. Tomorrowland was a bomb. After he brought the Mission Impossible franchise back and made a film that made $694 million, and was critically acclaimed as the best reviewed film, now you have the sequel that made $680 million, Rogue Nation. Now you have Fallout coming out. Because 3 really disappointed at the box office, and I like Mission Impossible 3. That was in the height of Scientology couch jumping Tom Cruise. But then he made Tomorrowland, written by Damon Lindelof, and that film had a big budget. $190 million is not a small budget. I guess they thought this might be the next Pirates of the Caribbean or something. $33 million opening weekend. George Clooney's in it. $93 million domestic, $209 million worldwide. This was a big bomb. Got very mixed reviews. I was excited about Tomorrowland just because of Brad Bird. You go back to the Ghost Protocol. This really brought Tom Cruise back. He had a series of films that underperformed, and this film was a massive hit. It only cost $145 million. It solidified the franchise, was back, the team movie. Although the 5th movie oddly kind of left the team aspect and went back just to Ethan Hunt. And I love that every movie in this franchise is about Ethan Hunt going rogue and the government turning against him, even the new movie. It's the same plot in every movie. It's so funny. They've made the same plot 6 times. Ratatouille, which was considered a disappointment domestically because it had such a big budget, making $206 million. Made $620 million worldwide. Very critically acclaimed film. This film has a 96 on Metacritic. I think the film critic character is an amazing character. This is a very acclaimed film, but it wasn't like the biggest film. I think that might have to do with having a rat as a lead character. But for Brad Bird, this is a guy who, worked on The Simpsons for years, did Family Dog, great animator, one of the greatest animation directors of all time, has a Spielberg-like ability to create tone and composition. I actually think this is a better movie than E.T., that's similar to E.T. I love this film. I love The Iron Giant. I think it's a masterpiece, quite frankly. Had a $5 million opening weekend, $23 million domestic, $70 million budget. This film did not do well. Gained a huge cult following. A lot of that had to do with the Cartoon Network 24-hour thing. But then he comes out with The Incredibles. He goes to work at the guys at Pixar, and he gets a huge boost, becomes famous. People know, besides animation buffs, people knew him because of his work on The Simpsons and stuff like that. But yeah, he comes out with this film that for years was the best reviewed superhero. I guess it still is. It's still better reviewed than Black Panther, actually. For years, this is and a lot of people consider the good Fantastic Four movie. Then he has Ratatouille, and then he has Mission Impossible. He's just on a winning streak. Then Tomorrowland brings him down. But now he is back. Well-reviewed movie, even though I didn't love it, but it did get decent reviews, and it's the biggest hit of his career. So Brad Bird is back. He's got the future ahead of him. Incredibles 3 could make a shitload of money, and this is gonna put him back in because he went to live-action movies, and I think he was going down that pathway, but I think he was brought back specifically because of the bombing of Tomorrowland and seeing an opportunity here to really do something. Even though he said he waited years to come up with the story for this movie, and I'm sitting there like 14 years, I'm like, well, this wasn't a very good story. I don't know why you waited 14 years for that, but this is just a terrific opening weekend. The studio's making more money than ever. I mean, when you think of Coco and Finding Dory and all that, the profits are huge. Even though I think that the writing has gotten very lazy with their last several films, and I think they're kind of cashing in on old franchises instead of coming up with new franchises. Even though Cars 3 was kind of a bomb, but the merchandise was what that was about. This is a total success. So I expect Toy Story 4 will happen and open to 200 million. I expect that we will see more Monsters Inc. I expect that we will see more Incredibles. It'd be shocking if they don't continue these things just because. I actually kind of want an Inside Out sequel. I'd like to see the girl's a teenager and more stuff inside the people's heads because the end of the movie they go in all the heads. I'd like to see more of that, but what is there to say? Besides, this is an amazing opening weekend, and it performed better than anyone could have hoped for, even the studio. And, even though it was 14 years, they didn't lose any fans in that time. And you could argue that it might have even built more hype that they waited. So, who knows? Ratatouille is really good. It is. Ratatouille is terrific. It's the music, the tone of it, the story structure. I really love that movie. I've seen it so many times. I think it's so charming. I think it's just a charming little film. I think it might be Brad Bird's way of saying he wasn't doing another one. Well, I don't know if it matters because they'll make one without him. This movie's making so much money, they would be stupid not to make Incredibles 3. I mean, John Lasseter didn't do Toy Story 3. Even though he did the first two. So I could see them hiring another director. Although Brad Bird, the director, is kind of what makes the films work. I could see them bringing in someone else. So, I mean, I agree that Scientology is no crazier than any other religion, but they definitely do some shady stuff that I don't think every religion does as much. And the cultish behavior. And the fact that it's a modern religion. It's a very modern religion, which is what's so weird about it. That we're watching this religion get birthed by a science fiction writer and stuff like that. It doesn't even have a lot of the context of other religions where, I mean, it's a modern day religion, so it's kind of fascinating in a different way with L. Ron Hubbard and how other people have talked about it, like Harlan Ellison. But it's definitely a weird one. I don't care for the first Incredibles, so I did care about this. Apparently, I am the only one. No, I think it does stuff certain things that I wouldn't say Buddhists do the things that Scientologists do. I don't like the Catholic Church, but Scientology definitely has some shady stuff, and the celebrity aspect of it is very weird. That some of the other religions do. Even though obviously some celebrities are religious, but the way that Scientology is as a group and what they do and stuff like that, and the way they take people's money and the stuff they do with people, like having them sit there and stare at something for hours. The stuff that they do is very odd. Even though I think, praying might be considered odd or singing hymns and all that, but I don't think it's as strange as some of the practices in science, depending on what you're picking. Like communion's a weird thing, but like you're eating the body of Christ and stuff like that. That's weird shit. But yeah, there's something creepy about Scientology. Uh, that I don't know why it's so creepy. It might just because it's so modern, so we saw the birth of it, that we know that we've seen it develop in our lifetimes. That might be why it's so creepy to us. Where those other religions, we grew up hearing about them, and then you read about it and you find out things about them, but seeing Scientology kind of blow up in front of us is a very weird thing. It's a very unique experience to have that, to watch the birth of a religion and it develop in your lifetime. That's one thing I find fascinating about Mormonism, is it's so modern. And that's Sam Harris talks about this, that if you're ranking religions, some religions are more ridiculous than others. You would have to say Mormonism is more ridiculous than Christianity or Catholic, just because it's that extra level of silly. Even though all religions are silly, it adds that extra level of silly with the American aspect. There's sometimes like that where there's because I don't think anything's equal. I don't think franchises are equal. I don't think anything's equal. So I don't think I think some religions have some things that are silly, or other things have things that are cooler. Some things are cool in religions. Like, that's a cool thing. I like stained glass. I think it's pretty cool aesthetically. Incredibles 2 is hitting $1 billion, but it's slowly rolling out overseas because of the FIFA World Cup. Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Pat, what frustrates you more, a good film that bombs or a bad film that's a box office hit? A bad film that's a box office hit is definitely gets to me more, for sure. My expectations for Incredibles 2 was incredible. Already read that. Are superhero films or Star Wars films religious in and of itself? I think there's a definitely a cultish religious aspect to how people act about Star Wars and franchises, for sure. The superheroes, you could say, are modern day gods. Like, they're like Greek gods to us. How people worship Captain America and Thor and Iron Man, and that is how people worship gods. Even though they know they're not real, because they also worship the celebrities behind it as if they're those people. There is some. I mean, Mike kind of talked about that there's just this almost political side to Star Wars now. It's like a political rally. So there's aspects of that, I definitely think, but that's just tribalism. That's just human behavior. People as collective groups. I agree. Spirited Away is far better. I think Spirited Away is the greatest animated film of all time. It's him doing, Lewis Carroll and The Wizard of Oz. I mean, Miyazaki literally goes through The Looking Glass. It goes back to classic Disney. The classic Disney stuff, but it's more mature and thematically rich than those films. It's just him going back to that pure escapism that existed in films like Sleeping Beauty and stuff like that. Chihiro as a character. There's so many wonderful things, set pieces, moments. The third act isn't as good as the first two acts, certainly. The third act does kind of like whimper out, but it doesn't matter. The journey of Spirited Away, going to that world, to that bathhouse, and seeing it through in Chihiro's eyes and watching her organically grow through that world, and you kind of grow with her. It's kind of life reaffirming. When I first saw it when I was 13, I think, I rented it. Or I might have saw it in the theater, but I rented it. It was just kind of life-changing. It's one of those movies the first time you see it, but every time you see it, it's just as good as the first time you saw it. That's how masterpieces are. Every time you see them, you find something new in them. I watched that movie probably every year. I used to watch it every few months, but I've watched Spirited Away, 30 times easily. And Princess Mononoke's a masterpiece too, and I love Kiki's Delivery Service and Nausicaa and all that, of course. But Spirited Away, it has all the simplicity and elegance of something like Kiki or Totoro, but it has the grandeur of something like Nausicaa and Princess Mononoke. So in many ways, it's the ultimate Miyazaki film, because it takes all of his scale and wonderful things. Like, Castle in the Sky feels like a lost Spielberg film or something like that, but it has all the grandeur and excitement of those films, but it also has the quiet poetry of his more family-friendly work, and he balances it perfectly. And it's just one of the most visually engaging, voluptuous, wonderful, hypnotic films. The tone of that film's absolutely perfect. The pacing is it's how you should pace a movie. It's a movie filled with movie magic moments. The scene with the lake spirit getting the bath, the scene with the scene with Haku coming flying into the thing and her having to go upstairs and the giant baby and all that stuff. I even think about when she's getting thrown at the doors and the doors are shutting behind her. Yubaba's shutting the door. That stuff's also amazing. The detail, it's got the meticulous detail of something like Akira, but with the heart and emotion of only the most classic kind of films. There's not an ounce of cynicism in Spirited Away. You yourself get spirited away. That's kind of the magic of it, is that you feel like you went to this world. And that's really the magic of movies when they're at their best in that sense, is when you feel like you believe in this world, like you did with Star Wars or The Wizard of Oz, that you believe in Oz and the Yellow Brick Road and this journey Dorothy's going on, even though you could tell it's people in costumes. There's something about movies like that sometimes where you buy into it. You believe Tatooine's a real place. It's not just some desert. You believe that the Death Star's a real thing. You believe that this world that Miyazaki's created it isn't just something that's in this old Japanese man's imagination. It has a fluidity to it and a truth to it, that you feel like you can touch it and grab onto it. And the film itself grabs onto you. It grabs onto your heart, your soul. And once you see it, it's kind of hard to have it be separated from you. There's a reason that it's the highest rated film on IMDb, animated film on IMDb. There's the reason that critics loved it so much and it made so much money. There's a reason that anime fags and even casuals still talk about it the way they do. Because few films in the history of cinema, animated or not animated, have the just pure escapism and wonder of that film. There's few films ever made. I've seen a lot of movies that capture what that film captures in just 10-15 minute stretches of it, that not only makes you love movies and storytelling, because it's a film filled with so much storytelling. He's telling a bunch of mini stories inside of a story. It makes you not just love art, which is what's so wonderful about it, because it makes you love other people. It makes you love living. It makes you like that you're growing up. It's not a bad thing to grow up, and you don't have to be so nostalgic for childhood anymore. And it, at its best, I guess, is about the resilience of human beings, and why the magic of the afterlife or something greater than yourself isn't always as great as you might think it would be if it existed or not. Sometimes life is enough. The real world's enough. And yeah, it's really, it's great. I mean, I could talk about it for hours. I mean, I love it so much. It's one of those rare pieces of art that seems to connect with both the critics and it does. I mean, to me, it was the great film of the 2000s, up there with some South Korean films or like City of God. But for me, yeah, Spirited Away was, to me, I would compare it to what people probably felt in 1977 when they saw Star Wars or when people saw The Wizard. I mean, that's the only thing I can compare it to. For me, it was like magic. I mean, it took me away and blew me. I mean, blew me away and like changed my life in some way. I mean, it's really, it stayed with me. And when you grow, the movie grows with you. You see new things in it as you get older. And it's Miyazaki taking everything in his career that he had built up over decades, and putting it all into this thing because he thought it was going to be his last movie, which he did with Mononoke too, and his ultimate message about violence and the environment. But then Spirited Away, he puts it all into going back to the basics, because when he wanted to make the film, he met his friend's child, and she seemed kind of separated and detached from her parents, that she was kind of in her own world, and kids are sort of in their own world. So Miyazaki explores that. What if you were in your old world? Let's go down to that. And having to kind of lose yourself from your parents. When you're young, when you're a young teen and you're mid-teens, you kind of drift away from your parents and you want to be, but then when you get a little bit older, you want to come back to them. You like your parents again, if you have a good relationship with them, obviously. And she kind of drifts away and goes off in her own thing, but then she ends up kind of coming back to her parents and wanting to be with them again and not being so angry. And also, it's about, at the beginning, she doesn't want to move. She's holding on to the past. They're in the car. and she doesn't want to live in the new house. She misses her friend. She has the flowers, but then at the end of the movie, she accepts moving to the new place because she wants to go somewhere else because she's ready for the new and exciting. I mean, there's so many wonderful little details and nuances to that film that so many other films don't have. Even great films don't have as many details and nuances as that film. And I've seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of movies, but just little bits of Spirited Away, or there's a dozen movies and stories and themes within scenes in that film. Dragon Ball Z is probably more iconic and has more fans worldwide. I mean, I guess, but that's a TV show versus a movie. Isn't Dragon Ball like the most successful manga ever? Hasn't it sold like 150 million copies? I mean, I guess Dragon Ball Z has more, but yeah, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, One Piece and Detective Conan probably have more fans. I mean, then I'm sure Dragon Ball Z, there's more fans for that than there is Scorsese, like, than Goodfellas, but you know, who gives a shit? That doesn't have anything to do with quality of art. Sadly, I barely watch Miyazaki's animation. They're really hard to find around here. Yeah, even the stuff he made before that, Castle of Cagliostro's great. Sherlock Hound, Future Boy Conan, they're all terrific. He's an amazing filmmaker. Oh, Cowboy Bebop's pretty good. I remember watching Spirited Away in class when I was a teen, and I was so disappointed when everyone else dismissed it as kiddish. Yeah, it's not kiddish at all. No, I don't think so at all. I think it's very universal. I mean, it's about childhood, but it's not necessarily a children's film. It kind of has some Terry Gilliam-like magic to it, too. It reminds me of stuff that I love about Baron Munchausen and Brazil and Time Bandits. So there's that aspect to it, too. That's so wonderful. Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, that movie, the horse movie? Is that what you're talking about? Falling Down's great. Yeah, that's the great Joel Schumacher movie. Dragon Ball Z is huge. One of the most popular anime series of all time. Yeah, I mean, Dragon Ball in I mean, you're focusing on Z, though, but Dragon Ball is just popular. The entire Dragon Ball thing. Toriyama, I mean, the original Dragon Ball is one of the most successful mangas and animes of all time, too. I mean, he which I still think that's his best work, is the original Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z has too much filler. The original Dragon Ball is amazing. It's kind of a masterpiece, in my opinion. His humor, although he fixed a lot of stuff when he came back with Super, but I'm a big Toriyama fan of his artwork. I like when people parody, too. They parody the Toriyama stuff in One Punch Man. Awesome. But when I was a kid, DBZ was my favorite thing ever. I used to watch DBZ on Toonami, and it was obsessive. We all in the playground, that's all we fucking talked about, and at the lunch table was Dragon Ball Z. I mean, it was literally all we talked about. It was a soap opera for us. It's like, what's going to happen today? Are they going to talk for 10 minutes? I think it's one of those rare pieces of... Oh, sorry, we already read that. Wasn't the end of Falling Down a little... Well, when he pulls out the squirt gun? And he's like, almost had you. I do love that line, though, Robert Duvall says, though, at the end of the movie. He goes, that's why you did that? He goes, man, they lie to everybody. They lie to the fishes. But that doesn't give you a right to do what you did today. No, the whammy burger scene is awesome. No, there's so many funny laugh out loud scenes in Falling Down. Oh yeah, no, Avatar is a much better show than a lot. I don't know. The original Dragon Ball is great though. I just think Avatar: Last Airbender is just amazing. But Frank Miller's The Spirit with Sam Jackson. Oh, that movie. Yeah, I've seen that movie. I'm sorry, I didn't know that's what you were speaking about. Yes, I've seen that terrible movie. I didn't know that's what we were speaking about. The Spirit adaptation. Yeah. I saw that film a long time ago when it came out. I haven't watched it since. In a long time. I remember it being awful, though. It was like a really bad version of Sin City. Oh, crap. And it's like, yeah, Robert Rodriguez really stretched that directing credit he gave to Frank Miller. I just spilled water on my shit. God damn it. I spelt it on my shit like there's actual shit or something. Oh, crap. Damn it. A towel or something. Where's my sex towel when I need it? I saw Last Airbender movie and I wanted to watch DBZ, so my brother watched DBZ in its entirety. Damn. I just watch Kai now. I don't even watch the original DBZ anymore. I just watch Kai. Oh yeah, no, the golf scene where he shoots the tiny car. Yeah, no. There's so many good scenes in Falling Down. I might do it on Underrated Classics on that film. It's great. He did do the artwork for Chrono Trigger. Yeah, the Chrono Trigger is my favorite JRPG of all time. Maybe my favorite RPG of all time. It's up there with Daggerfall. And, but yeah, I love Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger's like one of those, like, the dream team. Avatar: The Last Airbender movie is one of the worst movies I've seen. It's certainly pretty bad. I like Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. It's not bad. The beginning part when I was a kid where horses ran free. It's a bad movie for sure. The M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong. Yeah, not much positive to say about that movie. It's pretty fucking bad. It could have been great. It could have been a great trilogy. You did Water, Earth, and Fire, 3-hour movies like Peter Jackson doing Lord of the Rings. There's a great story and characters in Avatar that could have made a great film trilogy, or even 4 movies or 5 movies. I mean, it could have been like Harry Potter, really, where you do several films. It's so unfortunate that M. Night Shyamalan made that. He shut out the creators, and it's just horrible. It sucks. I mean, it could have... The special effects of just the bending could have been amazing, which is probably the best part of the movie, honestly. I've never watched Ghost in the Shell. Is it overhyped? I think it is. The movie. I like Standalone Complex, the show. I like the manga. The movie has a lot of Blade Runner in it, and I would say some of it's just plagiarism. Like, there's the scene with Rachel in the photograph in Blade Runner, and that scene's exactly in Ghost in the Shell. I mean, it's in the movie, where the guy has the photo and his memories aren't real. It's like, what the fuck? But I will say this about Ghost in the Shell. My biggest issue with the film, and I've always had issues with it, is the pacing. Ghost in the Shell is a 2-hour film I think would be terrific. It's too short at 82 minutes. I wish it was longer, like Akira was, or Spirited Away or something. I like Ghost in the Shell. I like Bato. I love the action scenes that influenced the Wachowskis. The action scenes are amazing, but it's just too quick. They introduced this character, the Puppet Master, and it's so exciting. Like, what's the Puppet Master? What's happening? And there's this great mystery, and it all just gets wrapped up. The third act comes in too quick, and I felt this way when I was a kid, too. The film, you know, and I used to just watch that film for boobies and blood and stuff, but there's an amazing chase sequence. The opening's amazing. It's got a bunch of great dialogue and ideas. The idea, and I always took the film as saying that there isn't a ghost in the shell, that we don't have a soul, essentially, but my biggest issue is that, yeah, it's only 82 minutes long. Oh, come on. It is not better than Blade Runner. Are you kidding? Like, it rips off Blade Runner. Almost everything in it, it stole. I mean, it stole so much from Blade Runner. Like, I would give you that if it came out before Blade Runner, but, like, so much of the dialogue and themes and stuff are straight up just from Blade Runner. I mean, I guess they're cyberpunk themes, but I mean, Blade Runner does have bad pacing in some ways. It's slow, but yeah, I don't like how short it... Yeah, I agree, Bathory. Like, it's too short. It's too freaking short. Every time I watch Ghost in the Shell, I'm really getting into it, and then they get to the part where the Puppet Master shows up, and the movie's over. And it's like, well, damn. It feels like there needs to be, like, another half hour? I know it sounds crazy to say. Most movies, I wouldn't say that, like, it needs another half hour, but I'm like, I want another half hour to Ghost in the Shell. It's too damn short. It doesn't get enough time for character development and to develop things. And that's unfortunate. But I still like it. I still think Ghost in the Shell is really good, but I think what's always held it back from being great is its length. Is that they don't spend enough time developing things and fleshing out the plot and giving you enough times to feel for the villain. It all just happens so fast. Amazing dialogue. I really do like it. I like the action, not knocking any of that. That stuff's all good. But you know, I've never thought it was the masterpiece some people make it out to be. I think Akira is a way more interesting film, and I think Perfect Blue is a much more interesting film. Millennium Actress. Anything Miyazaki's made. I think Nausicaa especially. A lot of those films I like. It says Miyazaki never made a sci-fi film. He did make that music video that was kind of like a tribute to Otomo. The with the flying girl, and they get her, and she has the wings, and then the guys go break her out, and it's got alternate timelines. I think Mask of the Phantasm's amazing. Yeah, it's probably the best Batman movie. I know it's very controversial, but I never found the Tears in the Rain speech as too schmaltzy, even though I really like Rutger. Yeah, I think that's like the total opposite of schmaltz, but yeah, for me that would be the opposite of what schmaltzy would be, but because there's thematic depth in what he's saying. Like, a lot of schmaltzy stuff or cheesy stuff is very on the nose. Like, I love you, I want to be with you. But the things he are saying, like attack ships on Orion, and he's talking about basically life and ideas and what he sees through eyes and stuff like that. And he's trying to share a memory with Roy so Roy can remember him after he dies. That's got a lot of richness to it from a writing standpoint, even though it was improvised, but it's actually got a lot of depth. I definitely think Don Bluth's underrated. I even love All Dogs Go to Heaven. Secret of Nim's terrific, and American Tail's terrific, even though they just wouldn't say they were Jews. Don Bluth's great. I even like Titan AE. Titan AE is a really fun movie. Ghost in the Shell's an anime series is overrated, not bad, but overrated. Kind of like Evangelion. Everyone gushes over it, but it's just not that good. I do think some people overpraise certain anime, but some things do make the hype. Berserk, the manga, is great. Berserk's amazing. It's one of the best like dark fantasy things I've ever read. So not everything's overhyped. One Punch Man I thought would be overhyped, and it's amazing. Oh, Innocence, Ghost in the Shell, Innocence. I actually like that movie too. I think that's a decent movie. My favorite moment from the Ghost in the Shell movies when they try to corner the police chief, and he's like, sometimes the fox bites, hunts the wrong prey, or something like that. That's pretty cool. We're talking about Ghost in the Shell. The I think it's from 1994 or 95. I understand why people like it and think it's really good, but I still have problems with it. I've seen Akira, but I'm still not sure how I feel about. I used to feel that way about Akira too. When I saw it when I was young, it just freaked me out. And then I watched it again when I was like 14, and I liked it more. And then when I saw it at 17, I loved it. I fell in love with Akira, even though I'm not a big fan of the manga. When people try to say it's an incomplete story and the manga's great, I think the manga's flawed as shit. It has very unlikable characters. I love the thematic depth of Akira, and now when I watch it, I just think it's amazing every time I see it. It's one of the most visually interesting films. And I love at the end that basically Tetsuo can't contain the energy in his body anymore, because a lot of people didn't get the ending for years. But then Tetsuo becomes this giant blob, but basically he creates another Big Bang and creates another universe. That's why at the end, I am Tetsuo. All of the characters kind of mix together to go to another universe where they can contain this power that he is, because he is just too much energy to be contained. That's why he turns into the giant blob thing. So basically they have to, from what I take from the movie, I mean, I could be wrong, is they create their own universe. There's a new Big Bang. The ending is the creation of a new universe, and I am Tetsuo. Which is very amazing. There's kind of almost a 2001 element to that with the space baby. Tetsuo, there's kind of a space baby ending idea of Akira a little bit too, and the ending's up. It's got one of the greatest moments ever, is when Tetsuo gets shot by that laser cannon thing, and then he jumps up into space, and it's just silence. Like, the space is silent, and he's got that blue beam around him, and he walks on the thing and crushes through it. I've always wanted to see a Green Lantern movie, where a Green Lantern goes into space like that, and he's got the green stuff around him, and he's walking, and space is silent, and he's walking on something with this far shot. Some of the shots in Akira are like Kubrick. I mean, it's amazing. And the gore and stuff. Oh my god, that's a great movie to watch when you're messed up. I think it looks good. I don't like how the frame rate of it a little bit. Is when the girl gets crushed inside the giant blob. Oh yeah, when they kill Kaidari, that bothers me so bad when she gets squashed, and it's so gross. It's one moment I don't like in the movie. It's so messed up. It's so messed up how she dies. She's like the one real innocent person, and she just dies horrifically. It's so... Oh, one of the best scores ever. And he did the score before the movie was done. It's like, what the hell? How is that score so good? It's so good. I mean, it's one of the best scores I've ever heard. It's like Kayana Scotzi or something. I mean, it's amazing. I like a lot of Gundam, man. I'm a big Gundam fan. Let's see. The Boy and the Beast. I don't think I've seen it. I couldn't get into Gundam Wing. It had too much politics. Gundam Wing is 90s anime, man. It's over the top. Duo, no! Like, although Duo should have been the main character, not Hero. Hero would work better as a side character. I like Gundam Wing, but a lot of it's nostalgia. It is some cheesy 90s anime, but there's a lot of great Gundam shows. War in the Pocket, Zeta Gundam, the original Mobile Suit Gundam. Char's Counterattack is awesome as a movie. 8th MS Team is probably the best Gundam show. I think that show's amazing. Although I kind of have a soft spot for War in the Pocket, which I believe is 0080. It's got one of the saddest endings I've ever seen. The new adaptation of Berserk is an insult to the manga. I agree. We're never going to get the Golden Age fully adapted, are we? Even the 90s show wouldn't do it because of the animation, but we're never going to get like the full Golden Age adapted. The Golden Age stretch of Berserk is like better than Game of Thrones. It's so freaking good. I still read Berserk now, like, you know, and I've read most of it, but I still kind of go back to it and rate things. Even though there's a little bit too much 90s manga rape stuff, sexual content for me. Sometimes I feel like the Japanese went a little too far with that. Like, oh, this demon horse is going to rape a girl. I'm going to mount you. And, you know, tentacle stuff and like that. I mean, that one girl's going to get raped like 12 times before she eventually gets raped. I mean, there's so many rape things. Like, I'm going to rape you. And it's like, okay. And then monsters are all rapists. It's just like, it gets to a point where it's just a bunch of monsters rape. And it's just like, that's not as good as the stuff when people betray each other or the politics or the backstabbing or the characterization. It's not like I mind sex in it. Like, when Griffith goes in and has sex with the princess and all that, that's good for the story. But there's just these random moments where the demons try to rape women or something like that, or when they're riding with naked women's arms and legs cut off and they have them on sticks and stuff like that. And that's not my favorite stuff. That stuff's just gratuitous to me. I'm not complaining, but that to me is like one of the only things about Berserk I'm not a big fan of, is sometimes that stuff feels a little too like it's there to have an impact on you instead of serving the story sometimes. It's just fucked up for the sake of being fucked up. And I'm not really a fan of that. Oh, yeah, no, I agree with you. The 90s definitely has better animation. No question. The new one's animation is shit. Akira could work as live action if you did it. You'd have to scale it down. You would have to treat it like City of God meets Blade Runner. It would have to be like a gang movie. It would have to be a gang film with Kaneda and his friends in a motorcycle gang, and their friend gets taken by the government. They go look for their friend. It's in a cyberpunk universe. And you'd have some of the telekinesis scenes and all that, but you'd have to scale the movie down, and change a lot. But I do think you could do a decent movie, at least visually. But I don't really see the point. Pat, do you ever share your thoughts on the new Thundercats reboot? I mean, it looks like crap. I'm not being a prude. I mean, like, if you want to jerk off to that stuff, it's fine. Like, if you want to jerk off to it, I just don't always think it serves the story. Like, when she gets raped by Griffith, that serves the story. Because that makes a moment for what, Gats, is that his name? Or Guts, or his character, that's a big moment for him. Or when he gets raped as a boy, that defines his character in a lot of ways. So I don't mind that sexual stuff because that serves the story. And I don't mind when somebody... But there's so many fake out rape scenes in the early stuff of Berserk. And it's just this Japanese thing. I would agree with you if I thought it was specific to that comic, but all Japanese stuff used to do that. Remember Wicked City, which just turns into a hentai like in the second half? Like, or Ninja Scroll. They used to just do that stuff. They used to just throw sex and nudity in their stuff all the time. And I don't always think it served the story. I don't mind that the demons are rapey. There's just a lot of it. I mean, like it's just there to be disturbing, like the horse face with the demon. I'm gonna mount you. That one always got to me. It's kind of eye-rolling. It's so silly. Or like the one guy, the Frankenstein guy, when he's gonna rape the girl and he's like putting the tentacle up and he says, "You're gonna feel like a virgin again. Get ready for this." It's so cheesy. And it's just so that she can be saved from being raped for like the 8th time. I don't mind when the men are gonna rape the women because that makes it feel more medieval. Personally, my favorite stuff about Berserk is the medieval stuff. It's not the demon stuff. Like, when I was first reading the book, I was like, oh god, this sucks. This is like your typical guy with a giant sword goes to fight monsters. I was like, this is every cliche anime ever. And I didn't know about it. You know, I'd heard about it, but I was like, why do people like this? Then as soon as you get past that stuff and you're like, oh, you faked me out. And then you get to the Golden Age. It's just like a great medieval dark fantasy story. My favorite stuff is the stuff that doesn't involve the demons or the god hand or any of that stuff. It's the stuff that is just, you know, them going to take a castle and the politics and all that stuff. That's the stuff about Berserk that's amazing. Is the character development and what people do to each other and the plays on morality. That's the stuff that I think is incredible. Not him just cutting demons in half with this giant sword and fucked up stuff. I mean, that stuff's intense, but like when he stabs the little boy with the sword, that's more intense than any of the rape stuff except the big one. But him stabbing that kid early on, I'm just spoiling the shit out of this comic, but I guess it's been around. But when he stabs that kid early on, he's just in rage mode and he murders that kid. That's so messed up. And it's so impactful. And you're like, man, wow, he killed this innocent kid. That's the stuff that gets me about that book. Not when a girl's gonna get raped by somebody or somebody wants to rape someone. That's not the stuff that's always compelled me. I mean, I don't hate it. It's just kind of a trope in Japanese stuff. They really, and it's kind of, the implications kind of messed up because when you think about it, the Japanese raped so many women during World War II. I mean, it's not subtle. They raped a lot of women. They raped the shit out of women in World War II. So the Japanese were very rapey not that long ago. And then in all of their art, they have rape. And they have rape in their movies. Asians do this a lot. This is also South Korean films, but there's rape in all of their movies. There's rape in their stories. There's rape in their porn and hentai all the time. And the girls get raped. You know, and I'm not saying you're wrong that you can't do that and you can masturbate. I'm not telling anyone is wrong about that. But they get raped and they get raped by demons. They get raped by men, and then they end up liking the rape. The girls end up liking being raped like halfway into it. It feels like some odd thing with their culture. I gotta say, it is a hard culture to understand, so I'm not gonna try to simplify the Japanese people and their culture. But it's weird. It's a little weird. But naturally, of course, I'm going to be uncomfortable about rape, because I don't like to see people get raped. But you shouldn't. But that's what kind of makes it powerful at the same time. But it's weird. Is it still rape when it's a Japanese penis? Oh, that's it. Yeah, rape culture. Yeah. I mean, once again, if you watch this stuff, I'm not judging you or people who make it. I just find it a little... Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't think there's as much of it as there used to be in their mainstream stuff. There's not as much of that as there used to be in the, like, 80s and 90s. I don't know if how much of that was to do the sexual content, because that's what was selling, and that was just the culture at the time. But it's definitely not as mainstream as it was. Even Berserk cuts that stuff down in the later stuff. That stuff really gets cut down, the sexual content. So, I don't know if that was the thing. Well, no wonder Roger Sterling didn't want to go into business with Honda. Oh my god. And Sallow, obviously, but I think it's generally best avoided. Yeah. Well, it's a fine line, man. Finding that balance is really tough. I respect people who do it. Like, I respect somebody, you know, like Todd Solondz making Happiness about child molestation, or... I respect people who make films about things that people don't make films about. And it's a very brave thing to do. But you could really fall in the line of exploitation. 13 Reasons Why, the Hannah Baker stuff, that stuff is awful. And it shows you how bad that stuff can go when you're not writing something well and it has bad motivations. It just comes off like you're watching porno, like you're just watching this girl get raped, and it's gratuitous, and it's depression porn, and it's exploitation, and it's disgusting. I mean, I have rarely been as uncomfortable as I was watching 13 Reasons Why. It just shows you what can happen if you don't have artistry and you have a good balance on that and intelligence when you approach things like that. It's like almost Peros. It's like Inarritu, how he approaches all the dead dog stuff. That stuff's tough to watch. But what he's saying thematically with the dogs representing the people, he gets away with it. You can deal with the scene where the homeless guy shows up and all of his dogs got killed by that one dog, which is a brutal scene to watch. It's just these dead dogs laying there with their tongues out. It's hard to watch, but it has meaning, because then when he puts the gun to the dog's head, he realizes he's the dog. He's been killing people like this and not thinking about how it affects people. So now it affects him. So there's a reason for it. It's not just having dead dogs to have a shock value. But 13 Reasons Why, it's just shock value, and that's what's so disgusting. Have to be edgy to excite, please rewind. Happiness is great, though. It's probably Japan's obsession with women being submissive beings that you can force your will on. I definitely think there's an aspect to that, but that's just their culture, for sure. That is prominent. But sometimes good filmmakers or writers explore that, too. And it's really interesting. Sometimes they explore that stuff, and it's really, really interesting. I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. There's kind of a complexity to this. Oh yeah, He-Man 2003. That show kicked ass. That was like one of the best reboots ever. It was good stuff. Where are we? I guess we're at the 2-hour mark. So I don't want this to be a longer episode. So I guess I'll wrap this up. There isn't much. I mean, we've talked about everything. We've talked about anime. We've talked about The Incredibles. We've talked about Star Wars. Everything's been covered. I feel like last week was one of the best episodes in a while. I feel like some of the advice I gave people and the editing stuff and the Kubrick discussions and the focus. I felt like last week was really focused, serious. This one was a bit more humorous and ranty, but that's the wonder of Box Office Addict. Every episode's different. Some are funnier and more scattered. Some are more focused and topical on movies. Some are about the box office, although rarely. It's different stuff. It's all over the place. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I don't know what to make of it. It was kind of all over the place. I think last week's episode was one of the more professional ones. And I think I articulated things really well, and I was very proud of last week's episode as just a podcast, as a show. But this is whatever. This is crazy. This is a crazy episode. Let's see. But yeah, thank you for watching Box Office Addict. Thank you for tuning in on this 2-hour journey. The story of the week is The Incredibles did well. Go see Spirited Away, and thank you for all the new subscribers who have joined the channel in the last few days. Let's make it to 9,000, and we've been going on this journey together. I'll see you guys next week for episode 49. I'll probably be living in Columbus when we do 50, so that's going to be an interesting thing. If you watch Box Office Addict, you're probably a box office addict yourself. And I'm not here to help you with your addictions. I'm here to encourage them. So before I lose my voice, I'd like to thank all of you for dealing with the humor, the hypocrisy, the craziness, and everything that's happened with this channel through the last couple years. It's been a crazy ride, and it's not over yet. Let's see where it goes. And as always, the wonderful Bathory is my sidekick, and I hope we find her that baby daddy. And you guys are great. So yeah, I'll see you next week, where we will be talking about Jurassic World 2. Fallen Kingdom. Will it fall at the box office? Only time will tell. And you guys are great. Nobody gave me money to sing. Singing is only when I get paid for. I like Columbus more than Pittsburgh, but I was going to live in Pittsburgh. I find Pittsburgh is much more crowded and compartmentalized, and the driving kind of sucks because of that. That it has more bars and restaurants and kind of an urban culture like Cleveland does, but I don't like how packed it is. Columbus is much more spread out and kind of feels like a big town, and I like that a lot more about it. And I like that it's kind of growing economically. The economy's booming, and there's more people, and it could really turn into something. There's definitely more to do in Pittsburgh. but there's something about the feel and tone of Columbus that's much more relaxing. Could you sing Kanye West Good Morning? That's not really a song you sing. It's kind of a rap. But by the way, I highly recommend kids see Ghost. Yeah, Columbus is spread out. That's the thing that's kind of I like about it, is that it's spread out, and you can kind of get anywhere in 15 minutes without traffic. You can go to Polaris if you want. You can go downtown. You can go to Short North German Village very shortly. The rent's much cheaper than Pittsburgh. Ohio's got very cheap rent. I like a lot of that about it, and it's growing. Where Pittsburgh is just kind of like this. Kind of this dead city, but it's still fun. It's a really fun place, and if you like bars and sandwiches, it's a great place to go. But I just like the vibe of Columbus more. It's kind of more chill for me. More my speed. I'm not really big on. I grew up in Dallas though, and places like that. Yeah, it is easier driving in Columbus. That's the main thing. It's much easier to drive. Does Super Chat work with PayPal? I don't know. I really don't know. I've been through Philly. I've never really hung out there, but I've been through it, yes. Yes, New York City would definitely be too crowded for my liking. That would not be the kind of place I would like to live, no. That's just a preference thing, though. I prefer more... like when I lived in Dallas, it was more spread out. Yeah, no, well, the problem with Pittsburgh is it's just so old, and the way they built it's just kind of, and it's cluttered, and it's kind of hard to have space, and it's just how it is. It's not negative. I like Pittsburgh. I like Monroeville. I like areas around there. I like the cons there. I like the retro theaters. I like the bars are amazing. I like the food. I mean, I like Pittsburgh. I like the casino. I mean, they have an awesome Dave and Buster's. But Columbus is just, it's more like a big town, and I kind of like that about it, where you're technically in a city, but it's just more of a big town, where Pittsburgh's just kind of a little crowded city. And if you're going to live in a place like that, you might as well just go to somewhere like New York or like Seattle or something. Chris Stuckman, it could happen. He lives in Cleveland. I'll be really close. I was going to move to Cleveland, but it's just and the crime kind of turned me off, really. I did watch your video. Yes, I did. I found it to be very amusing. I watched it last week, actually. I had to think back. I was like, oh, yeah, I watched it because you put the comment up. Yeah, I watched it as soon as it was uploaded. Or as soon as I saw it, I guess. I'll go on CancerCast if I'm invited. I'll go on anyone's podcast. I've been on podcasts that nobody watches. So I'm not here to complain. I also think Columbus just has better work. There's more work there. The unemployment rate's lower than Pittsburgh, and there's Nationwide's there, and I think and then Victoria's Secret and there's a lot of Kroger. There's a lot of room to grow there economically, where Pittsburgh's gonna have to make some big decisions, and hopefully if they can get Amazon. But I do like the Benedum Theater there, though. I'm a big theater guy. That does kind of suck about Columbus. They don't have much of an art scene, theater scene. And I'm a big theater guy, and they don't have too much of music, but they have some nice festivals. It's the kind of place you can go out, drink outside at a festival, hear some music, and eat some food cart stuff, and that's fun. It's the kind of place I like. Do you link these podcasts? I tell people they're on sometimes. I would try to play in face where things are cheaper in general. Well, Columbus is cheaper. Ohio is very cheap. Renting in Ohio is extremely cheap. From what I found, it's dirt cheap, and you don't have to pay as much taxes in Ohio too. And Ohio's pretty cheap on alcohol. Like, I'm shocked how cheap Ohio is, to be honest with you. It's a cheap place. But I would not recommend living in some places like Dayton or Akron or something. Check out Anderson's General Store while in Columbus. Best wine and beer selection around town. Columbus has lots of free music. Yeah, they do. They have a lot of music festivals during the summer, which is awesome. But yeah, some parts of Ohio, really bad crime. There's high murder rates in some parts of Ohio. Really? The world-class bullshitter guys live in Ohio, too? That's funny. So does Sinatra, says. He lives in Cleveland. A lot of people live in Cleveland. I was gonna move to Cleveland. I have friends in Cleveland, and I was interested about moving there, but I just like the vibe of Columbus. I don't know why. My girlfriend really liked it there, and she always talked about it. We went to go visit there, and I liked it too. And I was like, yeah, I really like the mall there. It's not like a huge mall. It's not like the ones I went to in Albuquerque or something, but it's still, you know, as I used to live in Albuquerque when I was younger. But I really like the mall. I like Polaris. You know, they got a D&B's. I like the theaters. I like they got a lot of restaurants. It's one of those places where they test foods out. They have enough bars. You know, they have a lot of barcades, and I mainly just, yeah, I like the vibe that it's a spread out town and there's a lot of space and all that. I like that about it. Oh, it's weird. All these people. Well, maybe you'll see collaborations. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. You know. All right, that's it, guys. Let's not drag this out. So, see you guys next week. That is it.